Hi guys, I hope you are all doing well today. In today's video, I am going to be doing my January and February reading wrap-up because I don't think I talked about any of the books that I read in January, and I don't think I talked about the books that I read in February. I might have mentioned them on Patreon actually, but not here. So I thought I could talk you through some of the books that I read. If you would like more content from me, you can always check out my Patreon, which is linked down below. You'll get similar videos to what you see here on YouTube, but a little bit more personal. And sometimes I do polls, so you guys can choose the videos you want to see, that sort of thing. But anyway, let's jump right in. So, the first book I read, I actually didn't read. I listened to the audiobook, and that was The Never King by Nikki St. Crow. And I gave this book a 2 stars. This book was supposed to be a Peter Pan retelling, and it, in my opinion, it totally missed the mark. It didn't feel like a Peter Pan retelling in my mind, and it was so spicy, and like, I should have read the trigger warnings or listened to the trigger warnings because it was a lot too much for me. I didn't really enjoy it, but once I start a book, I kind of like to finish it. So I ended up finishing it, but ultimately I gave it 2 stars. Now, the next book that I read, I don't have with me, but my heart because of this book. So I fell so in love. Then the next book that I read was Throttled. Throttled by Lauren Asher. After reading Binding 13, I really needed something light and fun. And this does talk about some sad topics, but not in depth at all. Not in depth. There are a few parts of the book that are sad and a little dark, but it was quite short. I gave this one 3 stars. I felt like the relationship between the characters in this book was very physical. I didn't feel a lot of chemistry between them. Like, honestly, if they ended up with other people, like, I wouldn't really care that much, and so I think that's why I gave it 3 stars. I also didn't really have any attachment to the characters, and I found the female main character a little bit annoying in parts of this book, and the main guy character a little annoying in parts of this book, so it wasn't my favorite. Definitely a good palate cleanser, and I don't think I will be continuing the series though. Then after Throttled, I was ready to basically jump back into the Boys of Tommen series, and so I picked up Keeping 13, which is the second book in the series, and again, I gave this book 1,000,000 stars. This and Binding 13, honestly, I couldn't choose between them because the first book was really like a build-up and you get to know the characters, and then this book is sort of like the resolution, and so I can't choose between them which one is better, because in my mind they each hold their own place and have their own purpose, and they are both so good. And this one, I was crying. I slammed the book shut, like tears streaming down my face, and books don't usually do that to me, but I was sobbing so hard during this book, just crying, and I felt so much for these characters, and I was so sad when this ended because we don't get Johnny and Shannon's perspective in the next books, and so So, I still have not gotten to Six of Crows, so this, as soon as I finish Archer's Voice, I will be jumping into Six of Crows. I'm also going to read Things We Hide from the Light, which is the second book in the Knock 'em Out series, which is a romance. I want to read Glass Sword, which is the second book in the Red Queen series, which is fantasy. And I am 1000% going to read this monstrosity known as Redeeming Six, because I think the book Saving Seven comes out in April, and so I have to read this one so I can get that one as soon as it comes out. So, this book is, 900 pages. It is thick. It is a hefty book. I just want to say thank you guys. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for sticking around, watching these videos, listening to me ramble. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. And I am so happy. I am so happy that you are here. Thank you guys so much for watching.